hello there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Adjust the Mic podcast.
Hello.
We are on episode 184. I think it's 184. 184. We have a special guest with us. Colleen could not be here tonight.
Hat tip.
We're probably going to see her on Thursday. Colleen, we love you. Che.
Hey,
what's going on, man? How you doing?
Back.
Yeah, Scott. Enjoyed the holidays and
Heck yeah, man. And
to be here.
dude, my trusty sidekick over here, Sweet T, Mr. T, Thaddeus Maximus.
Thaddeus.
How's it going, T?
Great.
Dude,
Glad to be here.
It's been nice. We've been seeing each other every day now, every couple of days. We're going on some hiatuses here over the fall and last year, so it's nice seeing us getting all of our little projects and everything together, and we're getting this podcast going.
We got the beat going.
Yeah, man, it's been really nice, man. So good to see you again.
Hey, Che, how cool does the studio look?
It's looking so much better. It's like
It's awesome, right?
Well, when I came in, you guys said like, dude, it expanded.
It really has.
Kind of like the you guys see the movie or the manga Akira. How he starts expanding mechanically and biologically. It's like that. See more wires.
Well, you know why he did all this, right? He discovered he had a bulging desk. I was messing around.
No, I get it. No, but it looks good. It looks great. It really does.
Thank you, Scott.
I didn't have my laugh track there, so sorry. I was getting you situated over here. I should have done that before we even started, guy.
That's okay.
But yeah, man. So, Che, you were one of our most downloaded episodes last year.
Yeah, you guys told me that was awesome.
It was really cool to hear that because we had some really good long form conversations that were kind of off of what we normally do. So it's always kind of cool when you do a few things that are different. You have some different people on and you see how it affects the show. And it was kind of neat to see that, man. So that was really awesome.
I always have a blast when I'm with you guys. It's really fun to chat.
It's always a great time, isn't it? We've had a great time every single time. So I look forward to us doing this regularly.
Oh, yeah.
We can even call you. So if you're on some kind of amazing musical mission, you're like in Europe at some orchestra, and you're crying, in the back.
He's weeping.
And you're like maybe Michelangelo's great grandson is painting, an addition on the 17th chapel.
17th.
And you're there and you could just call us from there and say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. What are you guys doing? Well, we're sitting over at Scott's over at the little bar and studio and talking.
I'm sure to give you a call whenever I'm there.
Yeah, when you're doing cool stuff like that, let us know.
Definitely in the summer. In March, too. I'm going to be going there temporarily in March.
Okay.
You're going to be in Rome.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Rome.
When in Rome?
I haven't got my ticket yet, but it's going to be between the second week of March, between March 11th till March 18th or so.
Let's see if this works.
Dude, that shit's killer.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
What do you think the weather's going to be like?
I don't know. I've never been to Italy. I mean, I'm sure when I was a little kid, perhaps, but I don't know what I've never experienced what Italy's like.
I think it's going to be awesome. I want to know what Italy's like too. I want to go to Sicily, where my grandfather, was born, and just experience, what it is like over there. I bet it's awesome.
Oh no, there's hardly a place.
Just gonna have a great time.
Oh yeah, every time when I'm in Italy, I always have a blast. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the cities. I love the countryside more in Italy. Rome is a cool city. Everyone should see Rome. It's
Have you been?
Oh yeah, many times.
Yeah.
Because normally I go to Italy in the summer to see my family in Spain and in Italy.
Okay.
And whenever I am in Italy, at least I go to Rome at least once.
Okay.
Maybe perhaps once or twice in of the summers that I go there. I skipped out on Rome, but usually I go to Rome at least once.
Uh-huh.
It's fun to explore. It's Is it a city worth living in? I mean, depends on what, like if the person's a city person or a country person. For me, Rome's nice to check out and see for 1 or 2 days, but then I got to get out of there. And I had the same sentiment for most cities.
I don't think I'd want to live in a big city either. It's just too much. It's too loud. It's too. There's too much. I mean,
Too crowded.
I think Orlando's annoying.
Yeah.
Like I would hate to have to deal with that traffic every day. You know, I'd hate to be so close to so many people all the time.
Oh, definitely.
Like in the city, like in New York, where people are just living right on top of each other and you can hear everything. And I mean, usually if you live in an apartment complex like that, you could be by yourself, but you have a community where everybody knows everything everybody's doing and everybody's close knit. I would imagine it's like that in Rome.
Oh,
you know, I mean, these are old cities, you know, in a lot of these places that have been around for a very long time. So you got to think it's old, dated, even infrastructure that you're fighting and dealing with, just like you would in an old, you know, infrastructure here, depending on how well it's upkept. Well, and the tourists get one version of it, right?
And that's the thing. Like when I was a kid, you know, I would watch, you know, whether it's Spider-Man or Batman movies, and I'd see them on the city buildings, and you see gargoyles, and you see Gothic Forum on the other. Like, but that doesn't make sense because, as a kid, I already knew. That, you know, New York and places in Chicago, they're not ancient places. Like, why do they have those kind of medieval decorum or ancient decorum? Like, oh, when they were designed, they were basically
because of Batman. It's Gotham, man.
Oh yeah, Gotham City. But even if you go to New York or any of those big
Ghostbusters, man.
If you
look at the towers and at the top of the State Building?
I forgot like where they battle
Empire State Building.
Yeah, like that battle on the roof.
Zool.
Yeah.
Zool, yeah. No, but like it's just, you know, it's just it's modern implementation of medieval and ancient architecture just to give it the nice look. But there's more. Obviously, there's more genuine When I mean genuine architecture of antiquity, is that the architecture there was made. Most most of the old buildings that are there were made in those times. They've just been kept up to date. They didn't let them deteriorate. You got the Colosseum that was built in the year. It was built after the year 64 AD. So you got that for nearly 2,000 years, and it's been maintained, and they maintained their architecture there. The Spanish Steps, the Trevi Fountain, those were made in the 18th century. You got the Castle of San Angelo. I think that was in the 1300s or 1200s. I could be wrong on that one. You got the Vatican. You got the St. Peter's Square. That was in the 1500s. All those times, you know, maintained.
Yeah.
It's just
it's pretty wild.
It's very wild, and you know, they call Rome the Eternal City, because of their expectations of its long lastingness. But take a look. I mean, it's holding up pretty well. The last time I was in Rome,
Can you throw up some images of Rome?
Yes.
Like I did I walked.
Heck yeah.
I walked all over the city in one day. Got there like at 6 or 7 on the train. I would get on a train in a town called Terni. And a little fun fact of Terni, that's where St. Valentine originated. And there's a statue of St. Valentine in Terni. But I got on the train in Terni and I got to Rome, got there at 6 or 7 in the morning. Just spent the entire day walking around. I mean, I've been around. That was the first time I walked around the city on myself, without being accompanied by family or friend. And I just
How long ago?
I say 4 years ago, I think.
It's not too long ago.
Not too long ago. It was an amazing.
Just a little bit before COVID, really.
Oh yeah, before they lost their mind.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Colosseum up there. You got
you got the Pantheon right there. You got that's the interior of the Colosseum. So you got the Forum of Nerva. Nerva was one of the 5 good emperors. Yeah.
What's that to you?
Yeah, that's the Forum. That's the Forum. It has to be the Forum of Nerva, I think. Like I said, Nerva was one of the 5 good emperors, and they maintained some of the forums. The forums is basically it's basically where people hung around in the market. It's like where people shopped, hanged out, talked. It kind of like like in Boston, we have Boston Commons. Well, basically, that's the common ground. On Facebook, you have the Facebook forum because that's where everybody chats and shares. That's basically that area in the city where everyone hangs out.
Gotcha.
That's the forum.
What's that?
Let's see. That must be Piazza del Popolo. Overlooking is from Villa Borghese. It's like a very beautiful garden. You go down the steps just to get to Piazza del Popolo. It means Piazza of the People.
Anthony Hopkins, right?
This was in Angels and Demons. This was, I think, if one were to find an art reference of popularity, Angels and Demons. I think it was the for those of you who haven't, one of the Cardinals was
Forrest Gump was in that movie.
Yeah, Tom Hanks, and he was. I just thought of something. The cardinal that suffocated was put in that in that church. But yeah, and if you go, in fact, there's this street in Rome called. Come on, I don't want to mess up. I think Via del Corso. And that's like the central line that goes to Rome. If you follow along that line, it's basically like the main street of Rome.
Oh, is that what that little channel was?
The channel?
The other photo, like you can see down the.
Well, and there's underground tunnels throughout all these cities and everything as well.
There were times, yeah.
There's some TV show
Caligula, he had an underground tunnel to take him from the stadium where we watched the games, not the Coliseum. Coliseum was not yet built then, another stadium, back to his palace. As a matter of fact, I believe he was killed in that tunnel. He would take the tunnel to avoid, security risk, a private passageway. And he got killed by his own guards. And the reason why is like his guards hated him. They were sick of him.
Yeah, gotcha.
I remember once I wrote a paper. I never showed it to anyone, but it's trying to figure out why Caligula was crazy, and there's a good reason really that he suffered some sort of mental illness.
Yeah,
he was actually a good emperor. He turned out to be, he was first good.
But like what, like when we say good emperor, what's the relative? Like, what are we relative to? What, like,
not
did he just like murder like 5 babies a day? Or other emperors only maybe murdered, maybe 10 or 15.
Caligula was he was not. It's sad that the Romans had to put up with it.
He just chopped off babies' fingers. He didn't murder them all the way.
No.
You ain't seen the movie?
And wore them as necklaces. I have not seen the movie. I know nothing of Caligula.
He was not unreasonably punitive.
Hold on here. Let's ask Mr. Predicto here real quick. Right. Hey, Mr. Predicto, was Caligula a good emperor?
I would not count on it.
Mr. Predicto completely disagrees.
I would have disagreed.
Told you.
in the annals of history, he wasn't really a good. He started out as good.
Yeah.
He had one bad day. He had or a series of days. He was just sick.
Yeah,
for a period
I remember this, and he came out of it all fried and mean.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And that's where that's because.
So is that like would be like in today's language some type of a stroke of some kind, or some kind of a brain trauma, or like an overheating that.
I read one article that he probably suffered from porphyria, I can't from the same thing that George III suffered from, and most of the Hanover and Hohen, and also German kings.
Is George III? No, that was Henry, right? That was in the TV show on
Henry VIII.
Yeah, that was
Tudors.
on. Yeah, the Tudors.
Yeah, no. Henry VIII was a completely different case. He was just basically spoiled. Well, before he got the gout and syphilis, he was already a mean person. But with Caligula, so just said the backdrop. Before Caligula became emperor, his uncle Tiberius was emperor of Rome. But Tiberius was very reclusive. He just lounged away on the Isle of Capri, and he put his best man, Sejanus, in charge of Rome. And Sejanus took advantage of this power, and he started, so the historians say that he started arresting people without trial. They could do that back then. And they happened to be not just enemies of Tiberius, but people that Sejanus didn't like. So he was basically removing all his enemies, taking advantage of Tiberius's rule. Sure. And suddenly, out of the blue, Tiberius marked Sejanus as an enemy, had him arrested, and Tiberius kind of went back in somewhat administrative control. But then Tiberius mysteriously died. Some say he was assassinated. And then Caligula, with his cousin, became emperor. And one of the first things that Caligula did was reverse all the arrest orders made by Sejanus. He basically denounced all the abuses of power during Tiberius's reign. I think he wanted to basically he was at one point generous to the masses, and then one day he got sick, almost like a horrible fever, almost died, but he survived. And then ever since, he went completely kaput. He thought he was a god. He started doing he started arresting. He just became the same thing as his uncle Tiberius.
So at the very beginning, you were talking about Tiberius. He left somebody in charge. His best man, Sejanus. Okay,
Janus.
so Hugh Janus. Okay, Sejanus over here.
Sejanus.
Yeah. I just heard it the way I heard it.
Sejanus. Or Sejanus, I don't know.
Hugh Janus.
Or Sejanus.
It was Hugh Janus. Okay. Think about it. If you guys are Hugh Janus, right? And your best friend is the king, and you don't have any reference of anything you don't have any scrolls that help you make decisions. You are just whoever you are, right? And you have your community of people, and what is deemed good or bad is created and taught within that community pretty much. There's not too many outside forces.
Didn't they have decades and hundreds of years behind them, though, of, running the city and politics?
As I best
some kind of standard.
Yeah, I mean, yes, for sure. Like, I would love to help me with this framework here, because I think that's a good point.
I best understood when I read about Augustus, especially when he became emperor. The philosophy of Augustus is that the purpose of the emperor was to prevent corruption from the Senate. Because even before the Roman Empire, when there was a republic, there had been dictators before, and every dictator was a dictator for the same reason. The Senate is corrupt. A republic can be easily corrupted. Mm-hmm. You had dictators like Lucius Sulla, Julius Caesar, but the emperor's idea was to quell or to keep the power of the Senate in check. But the thing is, there were not really guidelines of what is the emperor's powers, because before the emperor, there was a republic. The best thing you had for a commander-in-chief was a consul, but even the consul would have to check in with the Senate, just like the president has to check with the House of Reps and with the legislative branch, House of Reps and Senate, and the judicial branch.
So even at that time, Janus, he had some. There was some corralling. I guess the point that I'm making is this Hugh Janus guy. If I'm that guy, and I'm given and I'm put in power to say, hey, I'm going to go chill over here. I want you to rule the people, deal with the Senate, deal with all these MFers, do all this kind of stuff, keep everything secure and safe.
You got that, or
yeah,
you got that, or call me.
Yeah, right.
I got you. Go ahead.
That's fair. How could I not do it corruptly? Like, there's no way I'm going to let people that are against me and wanting to kill me, and I have to sleep with no security cameras, no anything.
That's
like you have to
moves,
you have to be proactive to stay active, I feel like, in that day and age.
Definitely.
So like in our today's age of security and protection and what's right or wrong, I feel like has a completely different perspective than back then on what's right or wrong.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like completely different, right?
Well, that's why the Roman when it came to emperors, that was crazy, because Sejanus didn't really receive written instructions what he can or cannot do. He was an old buddy, a military buddy of Tiberius. Tiberius, he hated politics, and to a certain extent, he did not like his father-in-law Augustus. Based on what I got from what I read, Tiberius lived for the military, but after he left the military to become emperor, he did not want anything to do with politics, so he told his friend from the military, you take care of it, make sure the Senate's in line, there's no corruption. He's basically was to act as emperor by proxy, but he took from what it was written, he took advantage, but he didn't receive, from what I know, he didn't receive any specific instruction except do as I would do. But what it says is that he...
I mean, what else are you going to do? You got to send your freaking pigeons with their little notes over the seas over to your homie to say, hey, I'm over here. Yeah. I got all the women over here with me, and I got all the protection. I got half of our warriors, blocking. I got my fishermen out there feed me, and I'm sitting here, and they got a big old freaking fan, like a big palm tree. This is what... T's like over at his property. He's got, all these people coming over and they fan him with their big old, palms and everything. And yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. That's where it was controversial. We don't, was Sejanus really following Tiberius's orders, or was he taking advantage? Because all the people that supposedly he said he got the clear for Tiberius to arrest for treason, at the same time, apparently, he didn't like either. Was he removing his enemies to eventually assassinate Tiberius, make himself emperor?
This has been a movie already, right?
Oh, yeah. There has been a book and a miniseries called I, Claudius.
Okay.
It's a pretty good... the book's written by Robert Graves. One of the good emperors of Rome, Emperor Claudius. This is basically, the book is him retelling from the Emperor Augustus up to him. And Claudius was the stepdad of Emperor
Claudius Maximus. Yeah, I think he's related to Claudius, Thaddeus Maximus.
Claudius Nero.
Yeah. You're part of the Pharaoh tribe, right?
Possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a little different than Nero's.
Claudius is a good dramatization of what this was the Julian Claudian dynasty. Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, Nero. Those were the Julio-Claudian emperors. The Julian Claudian dynasty.
Okay. Who are they? Like if Zeus and Percy Jackson and all his lords and all his gods, were going to go up against these emperors, who'd win?
The Julian Claudians versus actual Greek gods.
Let's see where you're going to go with that.
Well, here's the crazy thing. The first Julian Claudian emperor, Augustus, his uncle was Julius Caesar, or great uncle was Julius Caesar, and he claimed that he was a descendant of Venus. That he claimed to be, because it got to his head that since he was almost invincible in war, not that he was a great commander, just he thought he was actually a god.
Mr. Magoo.
And when you watch like Roman Empire, when you watch any of these Spartacus TV series, when you watch anything from the era, everything is like, pray to the gods. Mm-hmm. Is that's Zeus and all of them, right?
In the Roman,
or what gods are these?
You got Zeus would be Jupiter. Mars would be Ares, Venus would be Aphrodite, Cupid would be Eros, Neptune, Poseidon, Pluto, Hades.
So just for future reference, if you ever get asked the same question, especially on a podcast, I feel like the way you should answer it, you should be like, well, Percy Jackson doesn't like his father Zeus, so Percy Jackson and his men would join over to the emperor's side. And I think the power of both the emperors and the gods' sons who are angry at their fathers would succeed in maximizing victory.
Oh, well, Percy Jackson is basically Harry Potter, but with Greek mythology and Roman mythology.
100%.
But his father is Poseidon, I think.
But Percy Jackson also had a horsey that protect him.
A horsey.
A minotaur.
Did he? Or a centaur?
Centaur. I'm sorry. Yeah, centaur.
Yeah, his
centaur.
teacher was a centaur.
But you don't be. Is
I
a
have a
minotaur
question about
is the dad one?
No. Percy Jackson's father was Poseidon.
Yeah, but what's a centaur's dad? Is it a minotaur?
No.
We just did this last night.
Here's what's interesting. A minotaur is supposedly the son of Poseidon as well.
Bull.
Okay.
Wasn't he in a cave and he got slain by somebody? Labyrinth.
Taur, Taur, is Greek, is bull. And Mino is the bull of Minos, because this is the kingdom of Minos, the Minoan culture or civilization on the island of Crete. So that's where the Minotaur derives. And apparently Poseidon had an affair with the queen of Crete, or something. I forget. He's basically a cursed son of Poseidon. He was cursed to be half man, half bull. So the king of Crete, or King Minos, put him in the labyrinth, and his job, I'm going to put a bunch of young people in there, and if they get lost, you kill them. And that's how you get the story of Theseus.
Didn't he have a one-eyed son on the island that homie went to?
Cyclops is also
Cycloptic friend.
At least
See what I did here?
Yeah.
At least
I just rabbit holed the heck out of this podcast in the best way.
At least the Cyclops, I think his name was Polyphemus from the Odyssey, was the son of Poseidon.
Okay.
But
Hey, is the Odyssey Iliad? The Iliad? No, I'm just,
Iliad.
sorry.
The Iliad comes before the Odyssey. The Iliad ends. I think the Iliad ends with the death of Achilles or Hector, and then the Odyssey picks up after the death of Achilles. The Odyssey begins with the sack of Troy.
But something a lot of people don't know is Achilles eventually sued that person for not dipping his ankle in.
Then the river Styx.
Yeah.
He sued his own mother.
Yeah, in the afterlife lawsuit.
Well, it'd be funny, like, I dipped you in the Styx River. All you had to do is just not get hit in the least likely place to get hit by an arrow. And like, how do you mess that one up, dude?
Couldn't you grab the other foot and dip?
But it's interesting that from mythology to Star Wars, isn't it interesting? Like when the first Star Wars was made, how did they blow up the Death Star? There was that one tiny hole. One hole, they just sent a laser on it, the whole thing goes kaputs. It's just, they made the movie Rogue One just to make it look like the Empire was not intentionally competent. It's like, oh, we have an insider, he made the hole on purpose so the rebels can bring it down and he'll transfer the plans to Leia. But, before Rogue One was made, it kind of gave that, romantic, that mythological sentiment of like, oh, the Empire's Achilles heel. It's that one place they didn't think no one would shoot at, which,
yeah. You left what open? Fire that guy.
Like the Death Star was being made while before even Palpatine became Emperor, and they knew there was did the Empire know that?
He was sponsored by Oil of Olay before he went evil.
I just finished a few months back the audiobook for Darth Plagueis.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, man, it was so good, and it was pretty much Plagueis was Palpatine's master, and it was pretty much, it's the story of Plagueis being in a very bad spot and at his worst, and trying to get himself back into power, and Palpatine was the subject that he found to latch onto to help get him there, and Palpatine played him like a fiddle,
which
you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Played him like a fiddle.
I have a friend
in
of
that
mine
series
who, I have a friend of mine who he read the same book. He from what he described, basically like it just actually reinforced the concept that Palpatine, he may have been perhaps the best Sith because he was good at manipulating and using. He did it to his master. He did it to at least three pupils of three pupils. He did
killed his father,
Maul, Dooku, Vader. He was good at manipulating, getting people to do things his way. I mean,
really,
talk about
was
a classic villain, because in the first Star Wars, just a guy in a hood talking very creepily and convincing people to do the wrong thing, and then you have But when you think about his character analysis, what does he represent? The toxicity of those who take advantage and how they change you into something worse.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who, in the end, if you allow yourself to be influenced the way others want you to, in the end, it's their victory.
Oh, totally.
It's
Totally.
like what he told Luke, like, kill him, get it, kill him. Yes, do it. I know you want to. I'll win if you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, grimy guy.
It's it's wild, man. It's very wild. So another thing I would like to kind of switch over, and kind of the same subject, we were talking about it before we started recording, is I've been stuck watching this on Netflix. It comes from the Cocaine Cowboys. You got what's her name? Vargas.
Sofia Vergara.
Sofia Vargas.
Vergara.
Okay.
Vergara. Yeah.
Al Bundy's modern family wife.
Ed O'Neill's. Yeah.
Yeah.
the family.
Yeah.
Gloria. She was Gloria Modern Family.
And to be Griselda Blanca, you have to be a vicious woman, a terrifying woman. I'm 4 episodes in, and I think she's doing a fantastic job. I really, before I give any kind of judgment on any of it, I want to see it all the way through. I know we were talking, you haven't started watching this one yet, but you know the story of her.
Like having looked, I heard of the story, and then I saw it on Netflix. Like, oh, they're making a movie at it. And is that Sofia Vergara? That is Sofia Vergara.
I know, and there's parts of it where you kind of question it, because there's certain like images, the way they try to. This is a big time role. This is a big time performance for her. I think might be.
It's hard to make a turnaround.
I'm not speaking for anybody. Like, I might be wrong even on this. I'm just kind of blindly in love with this little, this series right now. But like a big important role for her to really show her chops more than just some of the other things that she's done.
Oh no, she's making the leap from comedy to drama. I mean, I haven't seen
like a
her
vicious drama where you're the godmother in Miami. You're going against some of the most just ruthless, people in the drug business that do not value life the same way that, others do.
And that's, based on, there it is. How brutal was she really? There's no getting around the fact that Griselda Blanco killed a lot of people. Most sources claim she's responsible for somewhere between 40 and 250 murders. In the show, murder doesn't easily come to Griselda. At first, she is plagued by guilt in order for ordering a hit on a pair of state witnesses, and she can't bring herself to cut the throat of a man who befriended her best friend. I mean, for
beheaded.
Yeah. For Sofia Vergara to make that leap, I mean, it's like what you said. It's a completely huge change. I haven't seen her in. I really haven't seen her in dramatic films, only comedy films and shows.
Yep.
This will be something interesting to see her play that, because based on what that describes, it makes her this is done before, the reluctant villain. She, she's reluctantly ruthless to achieve a greater means to end. Just like, Michael Corleone, he does ruthless things to protect his family.
Like Al Pacino, when he got to play Michael Corleone, and that role made Al Pacino that was a huge role for him. And there's actually that series where they talked about that as well. Griselda Blanca, to me, like, there are roles that have been done that have been like, Oscar-winning performances, where it's a strong woman or about a strong woman. And that actress that plays that woman better come with it. You know what I mean? Because those are going to, you're going to be judged greatly for it, kind of. I just feel like this is one of those roles to where, like,
well,
to me, it's an awesome role. That's a fucking, like, to be a woman, like a badass woman doing what she's getting to do in this. There's one scene in particular where she's kind of like just walking, but she's got a certain personality behind her where she's kind of developing who she is. and kind of just like what you just read, like she had a lot of guilt, like that. What you just read is part of the beginning of this series on Netflix. That's exactly kind of what we get to watch. Her go from being pretty innocent, leaving her country, leaving Medellin.
Medellin. Is it
Medellin?
I know there's a.
I know from Entourage when they made Medellin, or what I'm saying it freaking wrong, but from with E and Ari.
I know in Colombia there's a Medellin, Medellin.
That's it. That's the place.
There's Cartagena, Medellin. Those are the two of the top Colombian.
And that's where Pablo Escobar was from.
And Narco. Yeah, that's a.
Yep.
And with now, if that's what the review from Vulture describes, and if that's how you saw it, and it's interesting you pointed out strength because. With most Hollywood movies and miniseries, they say, well, we want to demonstrate the character as strong. Well, the thing is that what's the smarter move is not to show the character already strong. You want to see them develop.
You have to. Everybody's vulnerable.
Exactly.
You have to expose the vulnerabilities to get the marketing of the movie to work.
A more believable display of strength is one which derives from a surpassed vulnerability, a weakness overcome. That's true strength,
and that's exactly how it starts.
Like I'm strong. Everyone, the writers put me as strong. That's
The opening quote. The opening quote right when it starts, it's a black screen, and it's a quote from Pablo Escobar, and it says, "The man I was most scared of was a woman." And his name was Griselda Blanca. That's the quote of what he said, is the person who scared him the most. The Ochoas was I think it's the Ochoas actually, was the mafia crime family that came up to Miami during this series to try to take over at first. And, she's trying to cut a deal to work with them. Let's all make money. They're like, no. As it starts off, I mean, you end up finding out the reason that these guys are saying no and trying to kill you is they're scared to death of you because she has this persona of just fearful person, and all these women that are, the girlfriends of these other, hitmen and drug dealers and cartel, whatevers. These women are secretly pulling for Griselda to do her thing. So, and you're seeing parts of that in the series. So they're doing a good job of, bringing this like woman pride behind her, fucking going crazy. And she's doing this with a young boy named Michael Corleone. One of her youngest son was named Michael Corleone.
Like literally like.
Yeah.
Because
Yep. And then there's Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo.
Which paragraph, third or fourth?
Under personal life, Blanco had 3 husbands and 4 children. She met her first husband, Carlos, when she was 13. She truly had 3 sons together. Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo. Blah, blah, blah. Following that, Blanco married Alberto after returning to Colombia. Stealing millions of dollars. Another godmother name. Yep.
Blanco.
Yep. Named after the character from The Godfather. With her third husband, Dario. And Dario's a big part of this series. Dario is, who she meets and, helps her in a situation. It's really cool what goes. Sophia, I hope she kills it. I'm 4 episodes in. I don't want to give a judgment until I see all of it because you never know. There's so much development going on. You hate to say, like, even and I'm not trying to change the subject too hard here, because I want to keep on this, but when you go back and watch Game of Thrones now, you know how that last season everybody said felt real rushed?
Rushed and poorly written.
Well, when you go back and start rewatching it from the very beginning, and there's a lot of people that are talking about this now, it's like, maybe it wasn't so poorly written because there's a lot of that series is so slow and so long, and when you forget so much of what was done, when you watch the trajectory of Daenerys Targaryen, when you watch her from every sign pointed to her doing exactly what she did all the way through to the end, just the way she did it, to where people think that it was kind of like wrong and she shouldn't have been, everybody wanted like to pull to her good side to be with Jon Snow and all this. But when you actually, that was part of even some of the people's problem. I know it was rushed for other reasons too, and how fast the scenes were kind of moving and going. But as far as like the actual story itself on how it ended, people hated it too. Well, and when you go back and look, there was all these little signs that all these people and reviewers are kind of going back and they're really paying attention to that timeline, and everything that she did, every instance, she always made the wrong choice.
Well, the thing is, like, she
or the choice that was that was better for her.
And then in that case, it's true. It's like to a certain point in the end of season 5 or 6, I think it was season 6. Yeah, season 6. The end of season 6, Tyrion, the dwarf, gave her advice to not be so punitive with the slave traders, and she took it and she followed it. The thing is, like, this, most of the decisions she did for herself was for her own survival. But I would say, like, because I heard someone say that it shows the development of her breaking point, but she should have, like, of all the stuff she went through, like, she should have had a breaking point before the final season. More than anything, I also saw a YouTube video. I don't know how true it is, but it said that George R.R. Martin. Again, this is what I saw in the video. I wish I can know what it was, but I said the video source said that George R.R. Martin was basically not asked to contribute with the seasons after season 4. That
I would even believe a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like that goes without even saying. But I completely agree with you. And like as far as like being like, is it its best version of what it could have been? I'm not trying to even make that argument at all.
Oh yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like, because I agree that it was like, they had to rush through it because they were trying to get to the Star Wars, and they didn't get to the Star Wars in time, because they had that going for them. So they rushed through this, and the whole way it was marketed and done was too fast because they really needed to get a few more seasons. But pretty much HBO was kind of saying, you guys are leaving, so we're not going to do this anymore and keep writing it. So let's get it over with in this 1 year.
I mean,
and so that sucked, and that's not the way it should have been. If they would have drawn it out, they already had, from what I heard, I heard the exact same thing, but then they did have all of the seasons already done when they stopped talking to him. Oh yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like they did all of it through all to the very end, but they just had to cut out so much in that last season to rush it, to make it fit in that under that many minutes.
And I can understand on that basis, but like, they should have consulted the author, because like he would know, like, if you had to, you mean
consult him and saying like, what could we cut out and what shouldn't we?
Yeah, the wiser move, like, hey, listen, we don't have much. We can only afford this many episodes, this much time. Here's the script. What would you suggest we change? Again, like,
and that's the one thing that we don't know if that ever happened or not.
Exactly.
Like, and it'll never come out like verbiage from one side or the other, I don't think.
Yeah, we're speaking it in the term because if that really happened.
Yeah, because there's a relative point of it being, let's say in season 4, they already kind of had like, hey, if we're this many seasons, it's going to be this. Because usually they say when you have a writer kind of set up with you kind of have 3 or 4 versions of the way it can go. Oh, yeah. And you kind of say, hey, if this is our timeline, we're going to have to take this route. If this is our timeline, this is going to be the story. These are the 4 versions of the story at different lengths. Give us your advice on that. I think that even happens in early on.
Like,
so you know what I mean? Things can get repetitive, and they can be based on a framework of a fanboy like myself. I want them to be the way I want it to be.
Well, and
with the right story and the right purpose, and like I want it to be like this feel good story.
But the other thing, like, yeah, exactly. But like the right story would be which story best falls under the context of believability in terms of which falls more in line with the decisions of these characters after so many episodes, and knowing their choices and their decisions and their character development, which comes as a result of it. But this is only speaking in terms if that in fact happened, because we don't know Benioff and Weiss's side of the story. One thing that I like to, one thing out of many to point out is, sorry, I was like just in my headset. The one thing to point out is something about the final season of Game of Thrones. So it's the one episode where they finally fight the zombies, the walkers. And the director chose to film it completely dark, or like the only light possible is the light of fire. And to the director's justification to give it a realistic feeling. My cousin, she said that she loved the episode because of the realism. I appreciate the realism of that. Like, what would it be like if you're fighting zombies in pitch darkness and all you have is fire? That I totally get. But this brings up a question that often falls in the arts, and that is, what is more realistic versus what is more visually convenient for the viewer? Like, what would be better for the artist to stick to what is more realistic and much more emotionally on point with the setting or with the atmosphere, or make it showy so we can enjoy looking at it? Now, because the reason why I bring this up is because it falls in line with, the choices at the end. Was this bittersweet ending of Game of Thrones? Because even George R. Martin said that the real ending, which is not the ending of the show, the real ending, it was in fact bittersweet. Well, what is more important, that you deliver an ending that the audiences might mostly not like, but it's important that you reach that point, or do you just give the audience what they want? So
think about it in this framework, because I like what you're saying there. And T, you got anything?
No, go ahead. I was thinking about that gray area.
We're enjoying your silence.
Yeah.
No, I just, so I think like we were like this last time, JD. We were just going back and forth.
Yeah.
And I love it.
That's cool.
So think about it in this framework. The books are the ultimate story that George R. Martin wrote himself. And there are fans that can even critique what he did and said what they think he should have done better. I mean, right? You have the uber super, you have a spectrum of fandom to every author that's popular, right? And when it comes to the purpose of that book, it's to go as in detailed. It's to give you the whole texture of the life timeline of the character and the world and the everything about it. He did that from his heart before he made any money on it. Okay, so he's doing that the right way, I feel. When you're creating a movie, like there might be a handful of people on this planet that have enough money to create a movie, but you know what I mean? Just with his passion and heart and his pocketbook. You have to rely on other people. Like, so many people start businesses and they take loans from people that they probably shouldn't take loans with, because you don't have the same personality types. So you view things differently, but you'll just risk it because if you don't do it, then it doesn't get made. And there are so many movies and TV series in all of, in our capitalistic, business, environment of making a TV show or a movie. It's all for profit. And you got investors and, these private holding companies, and they're all, like, just when you watch, there's this show on, I don't know if it was Amazon Prime or if it was on Hulu or something, but it was about the making of The Godfather.
Oh, the show?
Yeah.
It's in Paramount's called The Offer.
The Offer.
Yeah.
Like, watching that show, The Offer, on how they made The Godfather, changed my whole way I think about when movies are getting, like, there are so many things that have to go right for the, and so many mistakes that have to like translate and work.
Oh yeah.
For something to be an Oscar-winning performance or a show, and they got more of a blueprint now than they ever had, in the past of doing any of this. So it's like, I feel like that's why most people, when they read the books, those are the ones that can appreciate the whole story for what it is, and the people that watch just the movie. We live in this realm of just arguing about it because we only know the Cliff Note version of the whole story. And so we're just kind of going to town based off that. I don't know. That's just the way I kind of look at perspective.
It's an awesome way to look at it because there are, for lack of a better word, there are tribes of fans.
Yeah.
You have the ones that love the work and they see the adaptation, and whether or not they love it, they respect the original work. And then you have the fans who love the work so much that they detest almost any alteration, drastic or minor, of the original work.
Star Wars.
Yeah. That's what I had in mind. I did not like, first of all, I don't like any of the sequels.
And you and T were fighting over this yesterday, from what I heard.
Oh, were we, T?
No, we were talking about, little side note, the guy in Narnia, the fawn.
Yeah, let's bring another world into this. Fuck yeah.
But he looked at a picture of his dad, and he was a full-grown centaur. So
yeah.
How did he get from having like fawn back legs to having a whole horse body?
Dude.
I want to see the time lapse.
I mean, I'm sure if C.S. Lewis were to explain
that was perfect,
he might just throw some New Testament allegory to explain how his father's a minotaur and he's a satyr. I mean,
he held that thought in, like he was just sitting there quietly the whole time, memorizing exactly what he just said.
Shit, that's from yesterday, man. We busted
just
that open already.
No, you just said it so perfectly.
I told you yesterday, like in the end, I guess it's like one of those things. First of all,
I think he came out a warm liquid goo when it got bigger.
I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I don't remember a portrait of a centaur of Thomas's home. When I read the Chronicles of Narnia, I don't remember a portrait of a centaur labeled as Thomas's father. But if that were so,
do you remember that little dance he did to get the snow off the sound his hoofs made?
Yeah,
that was cool.
No, like
that was cool.
Just
was awesome.
Just the sound.
I'm wanting to believe that whole centaur thing was something put in by the movie by the film crew. And
I've knocked on the back of every closet that I've ever been in now.
Should we be putting more of a U in the centaur?
Centaur.
Centaur.
Well, here's the weird thing is like Tor means bull, but what about horse in Greek is equus?
I feel where you're going with that.
Or is it in Greek or Latin?
It's a U thing.
I'm forgetting. Hold on a second. Was Tumnus?
I want to see.
We're doing a timeline of like reality and fantasy right now.
I didn't mean to pull us off from.
No, I love that. It's hilarious. We've gone back and forth the whole time.
It's a total Hollywood input. It says right here, Thomas's father was a faun. He was a saint. He was just like Thomas.
Maybe I don't remember it right, but I thought it was like a full centaur.
Damn T. I think what was the bet? Like you just lost. So what is the pay up?
I gotta take the hormone that turns you into a centaur and we'll film the time lapse. Right?
The fact that we
are you saying about either that or Che's got to put a blanket on his back and you got to sit behind him and be the legs?
Hell no. I'll ride a little donkey backwards to a point. That's it.
There's this one joke.
Little human centipede horse.
No,
version?
It was such a good joke about. I don't know. It was about. It's about how to greet the missionaries that come to your door. So how to greet them, like wear the goat legs and the pitchfork, have like a red screen with heavy metal going, welcome
to hell.
But going back with the Star Wars, I'm not a fan of any of the Star Wars sequels. I watched them. I did not like. I was disappointed. I'm not saying they're horrible. Are you saying you hate everything that Disney with them, and you hope Disney rots in hell for what they did to your glorious Star Wars? Well, see, that would be in the camp of the really pissed off fans. Yeah. And this is what I want to say: is that
This is directed at you, Thad.
Concerning
Nobody else. Thad, I'm going to talk to you right now.
Scott, don't address this.
What I think, look, first of all, I think Disney did ruin Star Wars. Disney definitely ruined Star Wars. I can't believe they messed it up this bad. I think the worst, I mean, first they killed off Han Solo, even though they said that Harrison Ford wanted that. Then they killed off Luke Skywalker, just killing off the best characters and replacing them with not so great characters. And then finally, the worst thing that they've done, the worst form of lazy writing, they brought back Palpatine. Really? The Force somehow brought me back. Really? Like, they brought back the one guy that made Vader a hero. You made Vader's attempts of heroism in vain, and they brought back and what was the excuse? Somehow Palpatine returned. That was just one of the worst like, you just ruined everything on so many levels. You brought back the arch villain of the original Star Wars, because you couldn't think of another villain, and then how do you explain his return? I don't know. Somehow, I mean, that's just. I mean, I'm not even being the fanatic fan here. I'm just as someone who loves the arts. I'm just appalled that that's the best they could do. Like,
are you talking about the Palpatine that's kind of in the Mandalorian series and all that stuff?
No, Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. The hopefully the end of these series. That was it, right? When him and his sister. The Palpatine basically something about he used the Force or the dark side to bring him back. He reassembled him. So I don't know.
Darth Plagueis did that as well, or he got to a point where he was like almost dead. And then he like was alive, but in a different form of being, and had to kind of rebuild from like being dead, like killed. They thought he was dead, and so in the audiobook even,
he can reassemble himself, himself.
And that there was something that Palpatine learned from Plagueis in doing that helped him do something. I'm not nearly as. I just know that audiobook really told me a lot, because it was very interesting in the way they told it. It's worth. I'll send you a link to it.
Yes, please.
The way I found out about it is I was doing some banking stuff for my pops, and I was over at the Wells Fargo over on 50, and I walk in, and the guy, one of the attendant guys there, saying, like, I need to get my name put on this account and all this done. Here's paperwork, and we're sitting there, and he's got an Ahsoka. Little thing sitting over on his desk, and we went from just like, hey, how you doing, like very everything professional, to him just breaking down and just like, cause I said, oh, that's Ahsoka. He goes, that's my favorite character. The audiobook was just fantastic. And he starts going, and then he starts going, you got to do Darth Plagueis. You got to do this. You got to do this. Don't, he was an anti-Star Wars Disney guy as well, but he loves the character Ahsoka, and he loves that they're bringing it, how they're bringing it to, through the animation at first, through all the Clone Wars and all those kind of things that was early on, and now bringing it to form with Rosario Dawson,
yes,
who I love her as a character, But Jared in my office too, he's just like what you're saying. He's all on board with everything that you're with it. So I hear this from so many. I have one friend, Ralph. He's all about the books and all about the animated series, all the Clone Wars and all the what's the other one? Rebels, Star Wars Rebels. So he was big into all of that stuff, and then all the old books, the ones that never got written about or talked about or brought up. And so they're into all this. I'm kind of just a casual fan, but as Disney has been coming out with The Mandalorian, and so this is the take that I'm going to give you, the different take on it, because I'm with you, and a lot of people are with you in that take of Disney screwed it, right? Here's where here's the perspective that I think. They're not making it for us anymore. No. We're 40 plus years old.
This is a new generation.
We are the whiny little buttheads that want everything our way. And these young people have no history or background of where this, is. So they're trying to create the story for like all the future stuff. Ultimately, because they're going to be the ones consuming it for the longest timeline, and since this is a business, right? I from me as being a casual fan, so you got these kids that are going to grow up with this, but at the casual fan side, I kind of appreciate Disney's dumbness with it, if it makes any sense, because The Mandalorian I thought was phenomenal.
Season.
I loved it. The second season, yeah, I would even agree, but I still loved it. And then when they did the one that everybody hated the most was the one with Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, like that, the way they did that timeline and what they chose to use their time doing. In that, I agree with that, but it almost one part of that whole thing. There's one thing I didn't know about Boba Fett is that, or a lot of things I don't know, but one big one is that when he was almost dead, the sand.
I forgot I know the sand critter that almost.
They saved his life and retrained him and did, and got him back to health and showed them their way.
Oh, even they got the ones in cloaks.
Yeah,
the sand thieves.
Yeah, what are they called?
I forgot, but I know what you're talking about. The only reason why I remember this is because Mel Brooks made fun of them in Spaceballs.
Yeah, he totally did. and what can you look that up real quick?
What am I looking at?
Do Star Wars sand people?
I think like they wore these. They're very short. They wore these hoods.
The Tusken Raiders.
Tusken Raiders. There we go.
Okay,
yeah.
so the Tusken Raiders save Boba Fett, and they train him, and their best warrior really works with Boba Fett and gets him to where he's almost an equal standing, right? Teaches him the way.
Is that little dudes with the red eyes?
Yeah.
No, those are the Jawas.
The ones that
the
said
Jawas.
The zucchini.
I was thinking the Jawas. Then.
The little Jawa guys have the red eyes and can steal anything, and they're always bargaining and thieving. I love those guys.
They were the first ones that spoke on that old movie, right?
Yep.
I was thinking the wrong thing.
Exactly.
Zucchini.
But then the Tusken Raiders were the sand people that they have those big old mammoths that they ride on and everything. Well,
what am I getting here?
In this book, we got the answer.
Cool.
You found it. In the book of Boba Fett, there was part of it to where those Tusken Raiders were their property that they owned. They had some other gangsters that were using their train, running their speed train, and at the same time, they were robbing the Tusken Raiders every time they came by, and taking over their land that they owned and everything, and they couldn't do anything about it. So Boba Fett then said, "I'll help you guys. We're gonna, take this train out, and we're gonna rob it, and we're gonna, set new ground rules for this area. You saved my life. I'm gonna do this for you." So he does that for them, right? And they do it. It all happens. And you're like, damn, that was dope. Like, that was awesome, but kind of predictable. Like, you guys just kind of set it up, and it kind of was like, But then they get back home. They celebrate, the Tusken Raiders. Boba Fett's got to go somewhere and do something, and he leaves to go do something. When he comes back, they're all dead.
So it's...
And he's like, I just set them all up to die. And to me, the way that whole thing went down, I was so enthralled with that storyline and the way that. But when I told Jared about it, right, he's like, "Oh, whatever, dude. It was whatever, And to me, I was like, from my perspective, I was like, dude, that was like big and cool, and that was the one cool thing I could take from that whole series. But then, as they're teaming up and writing all this stuff, they're kind of doing something no one's ever done before. And they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I feel like there's a girl that they had doing some of the producing of some of the episodes that wasn't very good. But then there was the one guy that everybody liked or whatever in these series. The movies I haven't liked nearly as much as I have the series of all these. And the Ahsoka one I just watched, and I love that one. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on the TV side of it.
Well, the other thing, I think, here's the thing. When it comes to the Mandalorian season 2 and 3, I think it's just they went too far. It got to their heads with the success of the Mandalorian 1. I just thought it started to sour really quick after the second season when the second season began. Ahsoka's I liked Ahsoka mainly because of Ray Stevenson's character. He was just he did a good job of this rogue former Jedi. Meanwhile, now the Star Wars series I really liked, which actually got a lot of bad press, but I thought was great, was the Obi-Wan series. That was good. That really tells, because I actually was wondering what actually happened between these years. I like the fact that how Obi-Wan developed a friendship with, because it was going to wondering how is it that Leia and Luke have some sort of rapport with him. How did that come to be? I'm gonna totally
interject because what you're doing right now. You know what you're doing right now, right?
I'm talking. That's okay.
You know what you're doing?
What's up?
You're going. I'm an old man right now, and I like Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan. From all my Star Wars love, I have unanswered questions that I want answered, and this answers my unanswered questions for my old ass. I don't want these new young stories and these new people. I don't want any of this new stuff. I want my old stuff to get answered in the first place before you get to the new stuff. Then do the new stuff for the kids. Get mine done first. That's what you're saying.
In other words,
now.
I'm a grandpa.
Yes.
I don't.
That's an old breadcrumb they threw down there.
I love it too.
It is.
I love it.
They threw a bone. Throw me a bone here.
Yeah.
I'll tell. Okay.
You know that's what it is.
It is, but I'm glad they did, because here's the deal. Like, this is why Rogue One was actually good. In fact, better than any of the season episode 5, 6, and 7. The reason why Rogue One was good because it stayed within the Star Wars lore, and it connected. It was relevant. It actually fit, and it even explained the whole, ex machina of the little hole in the Death Star. That it wasn't a mistake, as we previously addressed. It was something done by a member of the Rebels, who was an inside man. In other words, Obi-Wan answers, but not only did it answer some questions, but they did it very well. In the fact, Obi-Wan, from the way I see it, that series was one of the best presentations of the Force.
I agree.
Versus this, because more than anything, it's the Grand Inquisitor wanted to kill Darth Vader's son Luke to get back at Anakin for killing all the young Jedi students. And when she finally gets her chance, spoiler alert, when she finally gets her chance, that shows which is greater, our bestial instinct or our humane instinct. The fact that she spared Luke and she cried about it, that she couldn't bring herself, answers the same question that the originals are trying to show, that good must triumph over evil, or it can, or it's almost making the argument that good is a natural, it's supposed to be the natural triumph over evil, which has been a repeated formula in literature, and in the arts, but this is another example of it.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw one more at you here, and then I think we're getting pretty close to calling it. And then, dude, if you want to come back next week or another, like seriously, anytime, like the way the setup is now, it's going to be easier for us to just come over here, and sit down, have some coffee, have a conversation, you know what I mean, and bank it.
Definitely.
And all right. Last time you were here, I brought this up, and I think the series wasn't over yet, and I think this season is over. Is the Foundation?
Yep.
Did you watch any of it?
Sadly, no, I haven't gotten to it yet.
Okay, so I'm judging you, and next week is booked. The week after might be okay. Block them out for like a month. Get a month.
I can talk to you about Ancient Rome.
You need to watch this, because here's what I'm going to say: is everything that you want Star Wars to be, and all the triumph of good and evil, and these epic, narratives that just pull to your grandpa, aging heartstrings. It's all answered. It's all answered in the Foundation.
Really?
Because the Foundation is Star Wars. It's the first Star Wars. The writer, the Asimov, George Lucas would have never done Star Wars if it weren't for the Foundation.
Oh, without a doubt.
And he even states that, he even rips from it. Star Wars rips all the terminology, the Empire, all of these like Empire. There's so many things when you watch like even from a casual person like me watching this. My buddy Jared that I told you he loves it too. Like me and him are the only two people that talk about it at work. It's so well done, and what it is, it's the foundation is you have dawn, day, and dusk.
Dawn, day, and
okay. Those are the three emperors of everything of the foundation, right? And they control everything. They're like the dark side per se. And what it is the emperor dies, but he cloned himself when he died. They were battling these robot humans that were like almost indestructible, and they somehow were able to kill them all. Well, there's only one left, and that one is programmed now to keep the empire alive and going. So she's creating all these clones. So dusk, dawn, and day are three version clones of the same emperor, but as a child, as an old man, and as the middleman, the middle guy, he's the current king, and then you have your grandpa, the old king, and you have the kid. So now these three people, if any of them step out of line, they'd be killed, and a new clone will pop up with the same memory as the other one up to like an hour.
Sounds very vanilla.
So it's like the way that work, and then there's all these other planets like Tatooine, all these other type of planets, and they have a lot of similar names, okay, and they have a lot of similar spacecrafts, and they are doing a lot of similar things, but they're telling a story of fate in mathematics. Like the foundation is all about so this is the only different. This guy, he's all about math, so he comes to the emperor and he tells them, hey, math is telling me, and they call it his religion, right? To them it's a religion. He's like, and him and his math followers, right? Is telling me heads. You guys are gonna fall, you guys are done. I'm not telling you when, and I'm not telling you how, but it's gonna happen. It's fate. It's just going to happen. And so they're trying to defeat fate, and fate just is falling into place. And then it's these heartstringing stories of all these different areas of all these important things happening and coming together to toward the end of this last season, the second season, this realization happens to where the emperors are confronted with the facts. And it's like, now you know why. What are you going to do with it? So it does the best job of taking our older mind curiosities, and it details them and it wrote it. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite series ever.
Like, if I can comment, I've read that that Asimov played a huge influence on Lucas's work.
I pretty much think he is Lucas. I think Lucas, he made Lucas.
The first work I've read of Asimov is I, Robot, and it's a compilation of stories of robots, but it talks about consciousness versus ethos versus logos, in other words. But something to point out,
part of why AI is where it is right now is because of writings and stories and books that people read growing up and loved, like his.
Which with AI is basically the death of creativity now.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this.
Damn right.
With
Darth Vader.
With the
pretty
whole
creative.
It's interesting that you pointed out about the Emperor. He basically wants to make extensions of himself.
Because he's perfect. He thinks he's perfect, and he thinks the only way for it to rule is through him. It's
yet another example of how sci-fi relates to fantasy, because you have, like, for example, Sauron. He makes an extension of himself is in the ring. Voldemort from Harry Potter makes various extensions of himself, Horcruxes or somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody's
trying to be immortal.
Exactly. And here's the underlying factor. Grandpas, as you say I am.
Grandpa Che.
We want the why are the big fans so near borderline fanatical about it? I won't say I'm borderline fanatical, but I would say that they want the extension of the classics that they love. It's an extension of their memories and of their childhood. I will say that my biggest issues, I feel like Disney is ruining Star Wars. I agree that, because it's important here, I agree that you should make a Star Wars for the next generation. Absolutely. But don't do it
without getting ours done first.
Without ruin. It's like saying, I want to be the next Leonardo. Great. What are you going to pay? I'm going to paint this. I'm going to paint The Last Supper, but they're wearing NBA jerseys. And you uncreative cretin. Try something else. Make a Star Wars that doesn't basically, what's the word? With lack of a better word, that doesn't pervert the classics. You just, the basis of your Star Wars is the destruction of the old one. That's so iconoclastic, and it's unnerving.
That's a very good question you ask. I'm going to ask Mr. Predicto. Hey, Mr. Predicto, did Disney pervert Star Wars?
Now is not the right time to tell you.
Maybe next time I will know.
It's the right time for me to tell you, though. By pervert, I mean ruin, dismantle. There's think of it like this. There's I know we're wrapping up on time, but think of the crazy fans, the fanatical grandpas. You should remember the Stephen King novel Misery, or the movie Misery.
Do I remember Misery?
Yeah, that's a thing.
Do I remember that sledgehammer going into that guy's foot?
That is
tabling.
I know that was so horrific. But again, think of the author coming face to face with the fanatical fan who doesn't like what the author, the chief voice of the work, the one who knows best, who must be respected on the final shots.
Okay.
Because
that was a good
nice
freaking movie drop there, buddy.
You think I didn't like how you did the work, but it's my work as the author. You must respect it. No, and now if you're incapacitated, I'm going to make you write the way I wanted it.
Dude, Misery. You brought it back to Misery, to the ultimate fan hating.
Of course.
That's great,
to
dude.
Me, the way I see Misery is a dark satire on fandom.
Yeah.
Because I don't like how the author did it. Dude, it's not your work. You must respect the author.
Kathy Bates killed that.
Like Kathleen Kennedy and the writing staff, what they wrote was not what Lucas expected, as I understand. There were plans for Star Wars that were scrapped. But again, it's all about respecting the source material.
Yeah. And here's where I'll say this. I don't have either side, like Disney or anybody. They could have done it either way. And me personally, I wouldn't have had too much of I wouldn't get too anxious either way. So when I am giving you when I'm throwing the alternative side at you, I'm not doing it based on how I feel about it. I'm doing it based on how I can take the opposite take and spin it. And I want to hear how, and that's what I do with Jared at work. It's like when they get into something, I'll try to find the other take, because they do that to me when they know I'm into something. They do the same thing, motherfuckers.
But it's good. It's
that's worth. Yeah,
it's cognitively good to present the other side, because you are practicing the expression of opinions and beliefs.
Yeah,
you're practicing of how would you formulate your philosophies in this given situation, in this given circumstance, which is what you've been providing. It's a good practice on, not just practice, but an open window to see, well, how would your views be the same if I told you things were this way?
Yep.
It's healthy to keep an open mind and healthy to reconsider, and it's more importantly, it gives an opportunity to clarify. Sometimes we have thoughts and views and we don't tend to clarify them, and then we look at ourselves and we find ourselves to be Kathy Bates in Misery.
I fully agree, and nice. I'll say this is the reason I agree and feel like it is important to have all these different perspectives is I feel like that's kind of like a function of what's wrong with today. Is everybody is pushing a certain narrative or a goal or a timeline or an expectation. And sometimes they're not getting the many different perspectives whether it's from your media, whether it's from your social media, whether it's from your friends or your group, or whether it's just from the way you were raised, or what if it's just the way you fucking want. It doesn't matter. But like, to have different perspectives and to understand that there's different perspectives goes a long way in training us and being able to pass that information along, that there is a lot of different ways things can work. Everything doesn't have to be so single-minded. I just believe in that. Like, I usually don't have a judgment on who's right or wrong in a lot of things sometimes. So many people make mistakes, and we try to drive our brains and our judgments towards perfection. And there's
You're wrong about
there's
that,
a lot of
friend.
imperfection, you know, there's so
Just
much
kidding.
of it. Let me mute T real quick here.
All right.
A second. We can hit volume off. Talking too much over there.
No, it's, well, the thing is that it's perspective is necessary. And you say some people. I would say that if taking offense to a piece of feedback is an indicator, a possible indicator of insecurity, but the thing is to know who your friends are. And the thing is, you should know who your friends are. Who's just having a courteous banter, undifferentiating thoughts. No one's supposed to think the same, and no one's supposed to keep a closed mind.
Yep.
It's healthy to keep your mind open, but it's also more importantly to understand that one's perspective is not the only perspective.
Yep.
But so easily, especially the most defensive people who argue, so easily do we forget. I don't think that we forget intentionally. We forget in the heat of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Us amongst friends, we know that we're having a fun banter, but from what I've seen in YouTube videos, where there's a manifestation, a protest, or even on Fox or MSNBC, where commentators, when they go up to go as far as talking over each other.
Oh, it's insane.
It's like, are they aware? I mean, I hope they're aware. I hope they look back on it, but do they?
I couldn't agree more. You have to have a counterbalance to everything in a way to be able to. I don't know. I feel like if you can't respect everybody that thinks differently than you, or any of these type of fit any of these narratives that you see on television. You see like, I only watch this channel, whether it's Fox, MSNBC, if you watch only Animal Kingdom and you only believe in what Animal Kingdom, does and what their commercials tell you or whatever, it's, I don't know, man, it's kind of maddening that so many people are, the loudest people are the ones that right now for this timeline are the ones that are being heard the most. It's,
I mean, it's better. I'll say that even though we still we've yet to reach a status in society where we don't argue as if we're in a high school cafeteria. Mm-hmm. We have evolved compared to ancient times. There's a time where in the Roman Senate, yes, I brought it back to ancient Rome. There in the Roman Senate, there are these tribunes. Tribunes is basically in the Senate, the closest to a representative. Mm-hmm. And there were only two tribunes in the Senate, I remember. And they were called the Gracchi brothers. There was Caius and Tiberius Gracchus. And one of them proposed to the Senate a new form of legislation that would favor the plebeians, the poor. And the patricians are all aristocrats. They took, according to what I read, they took their chairs and bludgeoned the representative to death because they hated what he proposed. I mean, that there's more to it than what I just said, but I mean, we're not at least not doing that. It's a stretch.
Do you know what today's counterbalance here? I'm just giving you a stupid example, but it's kind of a real one. For the videos that you see on YouTube right now, where it's showing the narratives of all the, the division and all the aggression, then your counterbalance and all this, canceling each other and everything. Then there's this counterbalance. And it's like these YouTube shows, like these, it's comedy, stand-up comedy has always been like kind of one of your, one of your big indicators on what's going on in the world and what can be exposed. And my daughter, myself, my circle around me, a lot of us are comedy fans. And, you know, with podcasting and everything, it goes everywhere from the local guys like the Tom and Dans that I love. And then you got your guys like your Burt Kreischers, you got your, you know, Theo Vaughn's, you've got your Bobby Lee's. Yes, dude. You have, but then you got these on YouTube, these videos to counterbalance. It's these roast comedy. Okay. So you got Kill Tony. Okay. And they're in Austin and they just bring people up for 1 minute, whether you've done comedy a bunch or not. And you got a minute and the crowd, everybody gets to judge you. Then they ask you questions and there's banter back and forth. Sometimes it's really funny, but it's always super offensive. Like it's multiple ethnicities making fun of each other. And when you watch certain news and certain content, especially in mainstream, where it's owned by private entities that have a special interest in portraying a message a certain way to get a certain outcome. Okay, that's mainstream. When you go to a comedy show and you see just random people joking and laughing and defeating your narrative of, you know, people not accepting each other or people being, you know, a prejudice towards each other, all these different things. When you watch a comedy show where these guys are saying some of the most aggressive, hardcore things to each other, calling it like, you know, all the your mama times 5,000, you know, everything's in a butthole or doing this to your butthole, or it's all in jester and fun. And everybody's laughing and going home without any poor negative feelings. And then you see all this division within our politics, within it's a narrative that's being pushed at us, and we don't have to, you know, take it. And that's what podcasts are so awesome for. And that's what, you know, people should be doing, is being able to laugh and joke about things and towards things and have different opinions on things. It's not all about being like-minded, you know, hive mind mentality as a human race. We're so much better than that.
Well, you know, it's and it was great what you say is that people tune into, you know, stand-up and podcasts. One of the reasons I believe is
your mom's house, by the way.
Oh, Tom Segura's, right?
Oh yeah, him and his wife are the TikToks.
That's a great. I love that podcast. I love Two Bears, One Cave also.
Oh, that's so good, right?
But they turn into like
you drinking that much Kool-Aid?
That's one of the things I like.
That's a lot of Kool-Aid.
One of the things I watch to de-stress is watching Bob Ross painting videos.
Yeah,
it calms me down. But now when you
Jack Black's playing them,
when you're also I thought it was Owen Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It's not. Oh, there's something about Jack Black on YouTube.
Well,
go ahead.
I'll get to it. So when you watch podcasts, you watch people having a pleasant conversation, or they can be some bantering, but it's all good jest. Look at stand-up comedies. No one I mean, it's one of the reasons why hecklers, especially the very defensive hecklers,
yep,
who go to comedy shows and they complain that someone's telling jokes, even if they're risque jokes. People are going there to say, like, it'll be like a Puritan or a Quaker, or a teetotaler going to a bar. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing here preaching that everyone's drink alcohol? If you don't like it, leave.
And see, in human face-to-face in a bar, in a setup like that, we know how to handle that situation, right?
Yeah.
Separate that person from the situation. When it comes to the internet, we haven't learned as a hive, like a society as a whole, like a network, on how to deal with that anomaly yet. Yeah. You know, and I'm not saying to shut them out and like the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not doing it in a dehumanizing way, but you're saying stop trying to stir the fucking pot. And we have to have a better way of being able to communicate online with ideas and everything without that aspect. You know, that aspect becomes the debate on each of these social media channels. Like the people found the wording that's divisionist, and then they argue it. And none of that's going to matter here in another 5 years, because it's going to be a whole different argument, because we're going to be all up in AI talking about, can this robot really wipe my butthole after I poop and then offer to make me a sandwich? Is it going to be clean enough? Is this sanitary? Is this okay to have an emotional connection to this robot? And I'm going to say it is okay. But we'll see.
But we can't even AI think about it like this. Whether it's a podcast or whether it's a TV show or a stand-up comedy routine or anything, it parallels to what the Roman satirist Juvenal said. It's hard not to write a satire. To that extension, it's hard not to look around you and not have an opinion.
Yeah.
Even that in your unconscious or in your subconscious, you're going to have a thought about it. And maybe you might have the fortitude not to express it to other people, but without a doubt, there's a want. There's always a want.
And here's the other thing. On the racial part of it, if you are a person, because I think it's okay to be curious, to ask questions, to even disagree about so many things. When it comes to, if you're like a young white male or female, and you've been raised around your white family, around everybody, and then you're go to like an Asian or a black or a South American of any type, their home or to their life, or just involved in their life, even here in America. At first, your natural instinct is to be a little bit scared, and until you understand, or nervous or cautious about something and act a certain way, until you understand things, and then everything goes away. So we have to be able to intermingle in a smarter way, online, at least I should say, because in public I don't think it's much of a problem unless you just got a stupid asshole, and that could be anybody. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Just to be respectful.
It is, and
it's so.
I think I agree that fear
divisive that we hear it in a different way.
I think fear is the underlying factor that prevents us from courtesy. Fear, so many ways. And I'm not being vague here, but there are various ways you can define fear. To me, fear is the anxiety of not understanding. That is fear. Yeah. That is not being nervous of that which you don't understand.
Exactly.
And sometimes, when in our fight or flight instinct kicks in our brains, we become hostile or defensive.
We don't know how to process it.
Exactly. And for anyone who loves Disney, it's even in the lyrics of the Kill the Beast song, we don't like what we don't understand and tries to scare us. But, it's regardless, why do we react negatively to that which we don't like? Because we fear to learn it. Now, learning is not the same thing as liking. You can be afraid of something, but you learn it, and then you make a conclusion. Is it my cup of tea or not?
Yeah.
And there you go. But it's understandable to be apprehensive of taking the next step of learning something. Even if you're angry about something, guess what? That anger that prevents you from not wanting to learn, the way I see it, it's just another form of nervousness.
Yeah.
Because it's also the pride, the fear of letting go of your pride, thinking that you're weak, just to forget about your anger and learn of that which makes you angry. It's not saying that you have to let go of your beliefs. You have to learn and make sure whether or not your beliefs are well founded or not.
And I'm going to end it on this, guys. Think about this. If our children were taught at a young age that basic principle of trying to, as you age, there's going to be things that you don't know and understand, and that's okay. And to teach them adaptability at a young, even to me, it's almost more important than any kind of reading, writing, everything else, is having a core internal a behavioral mindset of being accepting, but being cautious and understanding, why you're feeling and thinking a certain way. I feel like so many times in life, I remember me, as you're going through situations, you have no clue the right way to handle something or why you just reacted to something so quickly in some way. You have a little bit of an idea because you've either watched a TV show or you've heard a parent say something, or you think you know everything, or but you probably have only scratched the surface on why you're behaving in that way. And if you really understood it, would you do it a better way for yourself? And then just be that further along in life, and maybe we'd have a lot more people a lot happier. Just as a simple, thing, but just have a core of that intelligence, and our ecosystem would be just phenomenal.
Well, that's why they say where there's a will, there's a way. There's only a way if you're only going to change if you're willing to take that step forward, whether you're scared or not. It's only gonna if we're talking about evolution, no animal adapted to a new environment by staying scared in the previous environment. Yeah. They stepped out, and they might not evolve, but their successors have.
Yeah, I got hawks out here catching mice out back in the trees when I'm sitting out back, and I got owls out there hooing and everything right in between these family houses. Man, they're making it happen.
They're a hoot.
That's right. They've evolved and adapted.
And even for fans of art, it takes. I was already annoyed with what Disney did to Star Wars, but I took the leap and I saw Ahsoka. I saw Obi-Wan. Yeah. And I tried to sit through Mandalorian season 2. But look at Henrik. Look at the Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen. He wrote a play called The Dollhouse. Real quick, it's about a woman who she's always been basically the housewife, or she's basically the husband's pet, Torvald, and she makes a mistake, an innocent mistake, but she makes a mistake trying to protect her husband from something. And then, even though the mistake is resolved, her husband finds out what she did, and he demeans her, puts her down, and she never heard her husband. She finds out how her husband never respected her. He treated her like a doll, like, oh, my cutie pie, oh, my sweet thing. But when she sees him unleashes anger, putting her down, she decides to leave him. Now, when Ibsen wrote the book, that she leaves him with the kid and becomes her own woman. But the fans did not like it, or the publisher did not like it. He said, people are not going to love your play if you don't change the ending. She must stop at the doorway, turn around, have a change of heart, and stay for the sake of the kid. Ibsen did not want that. But for the fans, he made an ending that made him sick to his stomach. Like all about changing. Know your audience.
It is, man. So, guys.
That was cool.
Another epic one, too. There was another, almost 2 hours. Got an hour, 45 minutes in.
Sweet.
I think we were the exact same the last 2 times. Let's keep it going, man, anytime.
Felt like an hour.
So we just figured out films and series, like whose Diggle was it meant to daggle?
Yeah.
The fan or the author or whatever creator?
The Diggle versus the Daggle?
Yeah.
That's
is that the
We're not meant
title?
to diggle. We daggle together. And
he's a doggler. He'll diggle.
Diggle the Daggle.
This is so much fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Daisy's in a tube top, screaming from the top of her lungs. This all ends tonight. Daddy's on the floor, he's screaming for more. Saying you're gonna be alright. Daisy's in a tube top, screaming from the top of her lungs. This all ends tonight. Daddy's on the floor, he's screaming for more. Saying you're gonna be alright.
Dude, that's just killer. Oh, dude, that was awesome.